Hi everyone. A few years ago I davened in a shul with a venerated history and a spectacular Rav. And after the davening I had the pleasure of introducing myself to this great man and to thank him for allowing me the pleasure of davening in his shul and hearing his words of wisdom. He thanked me for coming over and joked that sometimes he wishes everybody who came to shul would just simply wear those, hello, my name is tags, so that we would all know who was whom and appreciate the makeup of the crowd that merged itself into the tzibor for davening together. Now, he told me, we are just faces in a crowd. Now, with half our faces covered as a result of the corona in the last 11 months, I find myself really considering his words even more seriously than in the past. I find myself drifting back to that encounter this week, in particular, as we approach the Shabbos of Matan Torah, Parshas Yisro, and as we rise together to hear the Aseres HaDibros, the 10 utterances, I'm drawn particularly to the very first one, insofar that it stands out among the 10 as being unique, because instead of telling us what we should or shouldn't do, the first of the Dibros begins, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Asher Otzesicha Meretz Mitzrayim mi Beis Avodim. I'm Hashem, who has taken you from the land of Egypt, from slavery. Now it's interesting to note, there is no command here. Why not? What is the purpose of this utterance? And why is it the first of the Dibros? And while we're at it, when Hashem makes his appearance here, he notes that he took you out of Egypt. Here the singular Hotzesicha is utilized. It's dramatically different from the sentiment that we express twice a day, every day in Kriya Shema, when we note that Hashem is the one, Asher Hotzesi Eschem Me'eretz Mitzrayim. He took you out of Egypt. Yet when it comes to Shema, the plural Eschem is used. Why the difference? What's the message? And perhaps the answers to these questions will come together if we understand the purpose of that meeting we call Mamad Har Sinai and Matan Torah, and what the motivation of each of the principals who were present at that meeting was all about. On the one hand, we talk about Hashem's involvement, and the Malbim suggests that when Hashem came to Mamad Har Sinai, his intent was not to just merely introduce himself. After all, who in the Jewish camp didn't know who Hashem was? Who in the world didn't know who Hashem was? Rather, notes the Malbim, Hashem was asserting his authority over the people at the time. And he turned around, in essence, he was telling the nation that I am Hashem. Now go do what I tell you to do. And this is the message of Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am here, and what follows I expect you to follow. The Pesikta takes a very different approach. The Pesikta maintains that when the Jewish people saw that Hashem had taken them out of Egypt, that Hashem had split the sea in order to save them, and that he protected them in the battle against Amalek, making them victorious in the process, they saw a certain aspect of his godliness. Now, Hashem was going to reveal a different aspect of his godliness, that of rule giver and ethicist. And lest the people think that this was a different God, Chalila, with a different role, Hashem reminded the people that Anochi Hashem, I'm that same God. I am wearing a different aspect for you to see. And thus, when we talk about that first party to show up at the rendezvous of Matan Torah, who was Hashem? Hashem wanted the people to know exactly who and what his role and goal was to be when he made that Matan Torah experience. He was Hashem. He was the rule giver who wanted the other party, you and me, to know that we had a responsibility to listen and accept his rules and his ethics and to go and live by them. But that explains half of the parties who showed up at Matan Torah. At the same time, who were the people who made up the second group? Who were those who were to be included in Hotzesicha? Some commentaries are quick to note that Hotzesicha is a reference to the people united at Mamad Har Sinai. As Rashi notes in our parsha, they came K'ish echad b'leiv echad, like one man with one united heart. And this unity allowed the people to be addressed as one. At the same time, there are other commentaries who note that the word Hotzesicha highlights the fact that Hashem was speaking to each and every individual, to the you and the me individually. Now, is it possible to reconcile such diametrically opposed opinions? Is the other party at Matan Torah a nation or an individual? Or is it perhaps both? And if it's both, how is that supposed to be possible? I think that there's an interesting uniqueness among the members of Klal Yisrael, where we note that as a nation, we defy the laws of nature. When we shine, we're compared to the stars, who possess both the brilliant dazzle of individuality and the collective illumination of other constellations. Neither character of a star is supposed to cancel the other aspect. Rabbi Dr. Abraham J. Twersky, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, and it breaks my heart to say those words, one of my heroes for many years, who passed away earlier this week, highlighted this fact many, many times in his teaching, in his talks, and in his many, many works. Rabbi Twersky notes that when it comes to matters of halacha, there needs to be a conformity, wherein we remain united and relate to Hashem as a klal. But we also need to maintain our individuality as a prat, as individuals within the greater structure. And as was his educational style, Rabbi Twersky illustrated his idea with a Hasidic anecdote. As a young man, the Rebbe Reb Shalom Shachna, a grandson-in-law of the Chernobyl Rebbe and the father of Rabbi Yisrael Rizhiner, was not following the minhagim of the Chernobyl Hasidim. The Hasidim complained to the Rebbe, who turned to Reb Shalom Shachna and asked him why he was behaving that way. And Reb Shalom Shachna explained with a story. The egg of a duck got mixed up with the eggs of a chicken that were hatching. When the duck came out of his eggshell, he was different than all the other chicks. One time the mother hen was walking near a lake with her chicks behind her, and the duckling was following as well. The duckling immediately jumped into the water. The mother hen shouted, "Come back! Come back! You're going to drown!" And the duckling answered, "Don't worry, mother. I know how to swim." Rabbi Twersky explained that we need to develop and encourage our children to develop a halachically acceptable, healthy individuality. We need to give them the ability to know that they can swim. Because if a person loses his or her individuality, he or she allows other people to think for him or her. And failure to think for oneself gives rise to all sorts of distress in life. It also allows one to accept societal standards of morality, which given today's society, fall quite short of the expectations and aspirations we might have for ourselves and our children. Individuality allows one to reach for standards and personal expectations that are higher. We can utilize those name tags within our tzibur to know where to turn to for a particular strength that is an acceptable part and an enhancement to the growth, both spiritual and natural, of the klal. But at the same time, we need to realize that if everyone just does his or her own thing, there'll never be a tzibur working towards the ultimate goal, the service of Hashem as His chosen nation. When we continue to support one another, we stand before Hashem as a united nation, united under His banner, indivisible, and ready to face whatever may come our way. Shabbat Shalom to all.